You might be making these 6 common mistakes that are triggering way more meltdowns than you realize. Once you start shifting away from these habits, you will start to see huge changes, reduction in meltdowns, and also more peace in your home. I'm Lisa, a child behavior expert and a parent coach. I have over a decade of experience as a pediatric occupational therapist. I help parents feel empowered in raising confident and resilient kids. I teach science-backed strategies and tools that help you feel confident in supporting your child's development. So you have a child who is very explosive. When things don't go their way, they completely melt down on the floor. There's nothing you can do to get them out of this mode, and it seems like they get stuck in this for a very long time. More time than most other kids. It can feel very frustrating and exhausting having to deal with constant meltdowns, especially when you go out into public and your child is melting down in front of everyone. You're trying to get them to stop, but they just continue on making a huge scene. You're at a point now where these meltdowns are overtaking your life. It's preventing you from going out, going to people's houses, going to gatherings. You just know that there's something that's going to trigger your child into a meltdown that you'd rather just stay home and avoid any kind of public situation. But being stuck in this meltdown cycle, not only does it feel dreadful in the moment, but it's chipping away at your relationship with your child. It feels like you're constantly walking on eggshells with them. There's so much tension, stress, everyone is yelling at each other. And your relationship is getting further and further apart. It's not where you wanted or expected your relationship to be with your child. And because of this, because it's so constant, it's taking a huge toll on your mental health. You're questioning yourself constantly. Am I doing the right thing? Am I even a good parent? Why does it feel like I'm just failing as a mom or as a dad? And is this ever going to get better? But here's the thing. If you are doing one or many of these 6 mistakes that I see parents make all the time, it is fueling your child's meltdowns. But if you start shifting out of these habits and start making new patterns, new approaches with your child, you're gonna see a huge reduction in these meltdowns. So mistake number 1 is that you become reactive. So as your child is melting down, there's so many emotions your child is experiencing, and it's common in that moment to get triggered and become reactive yourself. You might start yelling, snapping at your child, telling them to quit it. You raise your voice, or you might even start screaming at them, telling them to go to their room. Now, this type of response, all it does, it escalates the emotions that are already in the room. Your child already has a lot of emotions because that meltdown was either triggered by not getting something that they wanted, or they felt overwhelmed that they just could not control themselves. So their emotions are already up high. Now, if you also add your emotions into it and you start yelling and screaming, that is only going to up the energy. And it's not going to help your child to learn how to regulate and calm down in that moment. So instead, what you need to do is have a calm demeanor yourself. You need to not get triggered in the first place. Not yell, not scream because you're getting frustrated with them. You need to find a place of peace for yourself. The greatest advice I've given to parents who are struggling to hold themselves back when they feel that trigger, when they feel their blood's boiling and they just want to react to their child, and that is to take a pause. So when you feel, and this comes down to how aware are you of your own emotions and of the physical sensations that are going in your body when you're feeling triggered. You have to be aware of it. So just think about the last time your child did something or somebody did something that really made you upset or frustrated. We all have different places in our bodies where we hold that type of energy and emotion. Right? Some of us feel it in our shoulders where we hike our shoulders up. We can feel like stuff moving, our blood's boiling inside of us. We can feel our hands get hot, our cheeks get hot. When you feel that, that's a sign to you that you're about to get triggered. And if you respond to that trigger, you are going to be dysregulated and pass on that dysregulation onto your child, creating more of a tornado that they're already in. So if you can notice that feeling in your body, learn to take a pause. Take 3 deep breaths in before you even say anything, before you even do anything, even if your child's melting down in public. Do not react to that. Take those 3 deep breaths in to calm yourself down, and then you can respond to them. Now, mistake number 2 ties really well into mistake number 1 when we're reactive. Now, mistake number 2 is when you rush in to try to stop the meltdown. Your immediate response is to go, oh no, like rush right in. You're trying to like get in there to stop the emotion that your child is feeling from happening. So you might be saying something like, okay, stop that right now, calm down, right? Out of a reaction. And that's you rushing in to try to halt that emotion. Because what you're hoping for is that if you rush in, you're gonna gain control of their emotion and it's gonna help them to calm right down. But what we see happen a lot when parents rush in is that it actually escalates their emotions more, and the meltdown actually gets bigger and longer. What's happening in your child's brain in that moment is that they're in survival mode. Whatever has caused that meltdown to happen, whatever triggered it, is actually causing a nervous system response. So they're actually functioning from a place of survival. And anytime you try to use logic, reasoning while they're in the meltdown will not compute. They will not be able to reason through it, and that can escalate the meltdown further. So let's say you're at the park, you're trying to transition your child out from the playground into the car, and they have a complete meltdown and they're flailing on the floor, screaming, crying, saying no, right? It's easy to go in there, say, stop that right now. People are looking at you. You don't want to make a scene like this. Look at all the other kids. They're behaving just fine. And that tends to escalate our kids' meltdowns. But in that moment, what we need to do instead is actually get down to their level. Recognize that transition of doing something really fun, playing at the playground, and then having to stop and go into the car is a really hard thing for them. So what you would do instead is go down to their level as they're crying and say something like, I know this is really tough. I know how much you love being at the playground. And pausing, right? You're empathizing with them in that moment. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard in that moment during that meltdown. That actually helps to rebuild the connection in which right now in the meltdown, they're feeling so disconnected. So when you can empathize and help them feel like you understand what it is that they're going through, right? In their little worlds, it is a tough transition. And so when we can explain to them that we understand how tough it is, that can help them to feel more at ease and help them to calm down naturally more quickly. Now, mistake number 3 is using empty threats. So when your child is losing control, they're upset over something, and you say, if you don't quit it now, you're not going to have any more screen time. Now, you're making a threat to them to try to get them to calm down so that they snap out of it. But that right now, you're using that tactic and it's only escalating the meltdown. Here's why. If we've been relying on using threats to try to get our kids to comply, to obey, we're using fear tactics to get them to listen. And if this is the common habit that has been used over and over again, now we're using that fear every time that they're having a meltdown, and you say that, they're immediately going to feel that fear rushing through their body. But then if we're making these types of empty threats where we're saying you're never going to have screen time again, right? And I know it's our way of trying to grasp at straws to try to gain that control. And we're just trying to throw whatever we can to try to scare our kids to listen. But then are we really going to do that? Are we never going to give our kids screen time? Likely not. That will be a very difficult thing to do. If you choose to do that, great on you. But I mean, I think for a lot of us, that is not going to be the case. We are going to give our kids screens at some point again. And so using these types of empty threats is not an effective strategy. And also too, when we start using these types of empty threats, we're often in a state of dysregulation. We're in a state of panic, which is why we are pulling on all these different things to try to gain control of the situation. And so we're actually dysregulated when we speak and we use those types of threats. What we really need to do instead in that situation is learn how to regulate ourselves, not get triggered by the meltdown, calm ourselves down so that we can co-regulate with our kids. We can empathize with our kids by saying things like, I know how hard it is for you to have to leave this and to come and do your homework or whatever the situation is. Then when we can hold quiet space for our kids to naturally de-escalate, that's when their thinking brains, their logical brains start to come back online. They can actually start listening to you again. And that's where you set the real firm boundaries, right? You start to explain to them that, I gave you 10 minutes of screen time. It's now time to do your homework. And that's what led to the big meltdown. Well, now after they've de-escalated because you've stayed calm yourself, you've connected with them, you've empathized with their feelings, you gave them space to naturally calm down. Now it's time to talk about those boundaries, right? I know how upset you were because I told you couldn't have more screen time. But that is our rule. We have 10 minutes of screen time when we get home, and then we have to do our homework. When we speak in a very sturdy kind of way, our kids read our energy. They know that, this is how it is set. My parents are setting the tone for me at home. They're setting these boundaries. And, as much as I want to scream and cry, they're not going to budge. It's when we do budge, when we let our guards down and we put down those boundaries, that's where things start to feel very gray for our kids. And that tends to push meltdowns and tantrums into longer cycles. Mistake number 4 is you underprepare your child for situations. So you might have been finding that a lot of your meltdowns are coming to you in places where it was kind of like an event you went to. You happened to go to a restaurant with your family, or maybe it was a baseball game, and this isn't your typical daily routine. It was kind of out of the ordinary, and that's where your child is having the meltdown. Because we might be assuming that our kids are going to go with the flow. Yeah, we're going to head to the restaurant and everything's going to be fine. But time and time again, you've had issues whenever you go to these new places. And so you really need to set proactive time. Prepare your child ahead of time where you can explain to them, what are they going to expect? What are they going to see when they go there? What are they going to smell? What are they going to be tasting if it's at a restaurant? When we help to give our kids more information about what to expect, now they're mentally preparing themselves for that moment. And when they're more prepared and things are new to them, they're going to have a better time adapting, right? Because a lot of our kids who melt down a lot, they actually struggle with transitions. They struggle with new things. So the more you prepare them, the more they know of what to expect. And as you're preparing them, you give them different alternatives in case something goes out of the ordinary, or in case they start to feel overwhelmed. If they're going to be at a restaurant where there's going to be a lot of noise, right? It's a busy restaurant on a Friday evening, and your child gets overwhelmed in overstimulating environments. This restaurant is likely going to cause a big meltdown for them. So what can they do if they start to feel overwhelmed? If their body starts to feel like they want to get up and start moving and to start running, give them a solid plan. They can come up with a solution with you, or if your child doesn't have a solution, you can offer one to them, saying something like, well, if your body ever feels like getting up in the middle of our dinner and you feel like you can't sit down any longer, I want you to turn to me. You can tap me on the shoulder, you can whisper in my ear, and you can say, Mom, Dad, I just need to get up right now. And that will be our signal that we're going to take a break outside of the restaurant because I'm going to know that you're feeling overwhelmed. That way, your child has a solid plan. They know exactly what to do. So if that moment does arise, you can prevent the meltdown from happening, of them being overstimulated and not having a plan, and then causing a big scene that's going to stress you out in the moment. And now you have something that you can remind your child of. So if your child's in the restaurant now and you're noticing, right, they're fidgeting, they're going like this in their chair, and they're not telling you that they're feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling like their body needs to move, you could turn to them and say something like, hey, I noticed that you're moving a lot in your chair. It looks like you're having a hard time sitting still. Do you need to get up right now? We can take a walk outside the restaurant and come right back in 5 minutes. So being proactive is going to help you to mitigate these meltdowns that you're in and help you enjoy your outings, help you enjoy doing things with your family again. Mistake number 5, I see this happen a lot, and that is you don't build enough transition time. So why I'm saying that I see this a lot, and it's because families today are go, go, go. And it's just the way, the world is. Everyone is so fast paced. We got to go drop our kids to school. Then we got to go to work. Then we got to pick them up. Then we got to go to after school. Then, curriculars. And then we got to go to the grocery store, come home, make dinner. And we're just bouncing so much that we're also bringing our kids into that world too, of just transitioning constantly between tasks. But our kids' brains are not wired to be moving so quickly. We might have adapted to this lifestyle, right? We're grown adults with fully grown, developed brains that can handle these fast-paced transitions. But our kids don't have that type of capability. And so when we transition them too quickly between things, that can cause the meltdown because it requires them to shift their attention from one thing to the next, right? They might be doing something really fun 1 minute, then they have to suddenly stop doing it, be okay with it, and move on to something else that might not be as fun and be okay with that. And that's the part in that transition that causes a lot of kids to have meltdowns. So instead, what you need to do is start building a buffer time for your child to get their brains ready to transition out of the thing that they're doing. So giving them a heads up. So, I use the example of the playground. And I think this is a really, common example of kids who have a really hard time, whether it's the playground or whether, they're playing with their friends on the soccer field. And, when you're trying to get them to leave, that's when they start complaining and whining. And then you escalate and you try to pull them, come on, we got to go. And then it's just full-blown meltdown. Instead, giving them that buffer time of, checking in and going, hey, looks like you guys are having so much fun right now. Just a reminder, in 10 minutes, we are going to leave. So in 5 minutes, I'm going to come back and remind you that we have 5 more minutes. Then you leave. In 5 minutes, you come back. Okay, guys, I know this is so much fun. Just a reminder, in 5 minutes, we are leaving. So I'm going to come back in 5 minutes to remind you that it's time to pack up and go. When you can give them these reminders, it's going to help them to transition through a period of something fun and exciting to eventually moving on and leaving the park, the playground, wherever it is you are. Mistake number 6 is you're acting too wishy-washy. So your child asking for something like, Mom, can I have ice cream for a snack? And you're saying, no, you can't. No, we're having dinner very soon. Okay, they leave, they come back, they ask you again. No, I already said no. Oh, come on, Mom. They start whining, complaining, and you're busy, you're trying to get dinner ready, and you're just like, okay, fine, just go eat it, just a little bit, don't eat the whole thing. And, in their minds, it's like, yes, they heard your no, but they kept coming back. And they kept coming back because they're trying to push boundaries, and they're trying to push boundaries because they're trying to wait for the crack at which mom or dad is going to break and say yes to it. But that creates an unsteadiness, especially if this is a habit that you have been exhibiting over and over again. I'm not saying like a one-time thing, because a one-time thing, 2 times it's happened, that's totally okay. It's okay to tell your kids no, and then you kind of change your mind. But if you constantly act wishy-washy with the way you're speaking to them, they're going to sense that your boundaries are not actual boundaries, right? It's just a wobbly fence that, some days it's going to blow over with the wind, and some days it stays steady, and, it confuses them. Why isn't it blowing down today? So you need to make sure that you hold firm boundaries, that you don't act wishy-washy, kind of saying yes, kind of saying no, swinging back and forth. So the more you set these clear, consistent boundaries for them, they know exactly where that boundary is. And they know, even if they try to push it, you are not going to budge. And the more consistent you are by doing this, the more secure they feel, because kids don't know parameters. They know to push. They know that pushing, well, it's part of their development. It's part of what they do. They're going to push boundaries because they want to know how far they can go. But if you hold firm on your boundaries, it actually creates a structure for them to go, okay, I know that it's been consistent. That's as far as I can push. And there's no reason for me to escalate my behaviors because I know the answer. So I know that changing old habits is hard. It is very hard to shift the way we've always been doing something. So if you've noticed that, I am making some of these mistakes, but I really don't know how to even change my behavior because I am reactive, or I do say these things in the moment and I don't know how to catch myself. I don't know how to co-regulate with my child because, I've never had anyone co-regulate with me when I was a kid. So this is something all new for me. So if this is something that you're resonating with and you recognize that you're having a hard time making these changes, I want you to know that you aren't alone. This is why I offer one-on-one parent coaching, because I know that if parents are making mistakes like this and they aren't being corrected, unfortunately, it does create long-term negative effects on kids. It creates a lot of disconnection. It creates a lot of stress in families. And my goal is to help you shift these habits and make better changes for your family. So through my one-on-one parent coaching, I will help you step by step to unpack these habits and behaviors that you need to start changing, and help you find the right words to say to your kids, help you to recognize what's going on within yourself so that you can start helping your child out better and help them build skills in emotional regulation. So if you are ready for this change for yourself, you are here at the best time, because right now I'm offering a Mother's Day special for all of my coaching packages. You'll receive a 30% off discount. It is for a limited time. So if you're ready to make this transformation for yourself, you can find all the information on how to book your first free consult call in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one.